The summer of 1985 in Los Angeles was unlike any other. The sweltering heat that typically blanketed the city was overshadowed by something far more oppressive. Fear. A predator stalked the night. His name was Richard Ramirez, though the press had given him a more fitting moniker, the Night Stalker. In the darkness of suburban homes throughout the City of Angels, death had found its messenger. It began in June 1984 when 79-year-old Jenny Vincow was found brutally murdered in her apartment. Her throat had been slashed so severely that she was nearly decapitated. Investigators were baffled by the savagery of the crime. Little did they know it was only the beginning. For months, nothing. Then suddenly in March 1985, the killing resumed with a horrifying intensity. Maria Hernandez narrowly escaped death when a bullet fired at her face miraculously deflected off her keys. Her roommate Dale Okazaki wasn't so fortunate. That same night, Veronica Yu was dragged from her car and shot to death. The pattern quickly became clear. The killer struck at night, entering homes through unlocked windows or doors. He attacked couples, often shooting the men first, before turning his attention to the women. The brutality of the assaults was shocking even to veteran detectives. In some cases, he left behind pentagram symbols, forcing victims to swear allegiance to Satan. The religious symbolism added another layer of terror to the already horrifying crimes. As winter gave way to spring and spring to summer, the body count continued to rise. The Zazzara couple, the Doi family, the Needling household, no one was safe. In the San Gabriel Valley, Bill Carnes and his fiancée Inez Erickson became victims when the Night Stalker shot Carnes 3 times in the head before assaulting Erickson. Unlike previous victims, Erickson survived and provided police with a crucial description. Tall, long dark hair, bad teeth, Hispanic. It wasn't much, but it was something. The terror spread beyond the crime scenes. All across Los Angeles, residents slept with guns under their pillows. Window sales skyrocketed as people fortified their homes. The summer heat became unbearable as windows remained shut, despite the lack of air conditioning in many homes. No one felt safe. The Night Stalker had accomplished what few criminals ever could. He had changed the way an entire city lived. Law enforcement was working tirelessly to catch the killer. Different jurisdictions began to collaborate as they realized they were dealing with the same perpetrator. Fingerprints were found but yielded no matches in their database. A footprint from an Avia aerobic shoe was discovered at multiple scenes, providing another piece of evidence. Still, the Night Stalker remained elusive, always one step ahead. Then came the breakthrough they had been desperately seeking. At the scene of the Inez Erickson attack, police recovered a print from the stolen car Ramirez had abandoned. It was run through the new computerized fingerprint database which had recently added juveniles to its system. On August 30, 1985, they had a match. Richard Ramirez, a 25-year-old drifter from Texas with a history of petty crime. Finally, they had a name and a face. The authorities moved quickly. Ramirez's mugshot from a prior arrest was splashed across every newspaper and television station in Los Angeles. The next morning, as Ramirez returned to Los Angeles from a trip to Arizona, he walked into a convenience store and saw his own face staring back at him from the newspaper rack. He knew immediately that his reign of terror was coming to an end. Panic-stricken, Ramirez fled. He attempted to steal a car but was spotted by residents who recognized him from the news. What followed was something extraordinary, something that could only happen in a city pushed to the brink. As Ramirez ran through the streets of East Los Angeles, word spread quickly through the predominantly Hispanic neighborhood. This was the man who had been terrorizing their community. This was the Night Stalker. What began as a police pursuit transformed into something resembling mob justice. Residents poured out of their homes and businesses, joining the chase. A man named Manuel de la Torres caught up to Ramirez and struck him with a metal rod. Ramirez continued to run, crossing the Santa Ana freeway, desperate to escape the growing crowd, but there was nowhere to hide. The community had united against him. Eventually, Ramirez was cornered by a group of residents who recognized him. They surrounded him, beating him and holding him captive until police arrived. When officers finally reached the scene, they found themselves not rescuing a victim, but saving a predator from the vengeance of his would-be prey. It was an unprecedented moment of community action. The people of Los Angeles had taken back their city. When police took custody of Ramirez, he was quoted as saying, "Thank God you came." A curious statement from a man who had reportedly forced his victims to swear allegiance to Satan. The irony was not lost on the officers who transported him to jail. As news spread of the Night Stalker's capture, a collective sigh of relief echoed throughout Los Angeles. Window locks were unlatched. Doors were left open to let in the summer breeze. Children were allowed to play outside again. Richard Ramirez's subsequent trial was a media spectacle. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Fingerprints, shoe prints, eyewitness testimony. DNA evidence was still in its infancy, but it wasn't needed in this case. In the courtroom, Ramirez embraced his demonic persona, flashing a pentagram drawn on his palm and shouting "Hail Satan" during proceedings. It was as if he wanted the world to see the monster they believed him to be. On September 20, 1989, after a lengthy trial, Richard Ramirez was convicted of 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. The jury recommended the death penalty. When the verdict was read, Ramirez remained defiant, stating, "You don't understand me. You are not expected to. You're not capable of it. I am beyond your experience. I am beyond good and evil." Despite the death sentence, Ramirez would never face execution. Instead, he spent the next 23 years on death row at San Quentin State Prison. During this time, he attracted a disturbing following of admirers, and even married one of them, a freelance magazine editor named Doreen Leoy, who proclaimed her belief in his innocence despite the mountain of evidence. Their relationship added yet another bizarre chapter to an already incomprehensible story. On June 7, 2013, Richard Ramirez died of complications from B-cell lymphoma while awaiting execution. He was 53 years old. His death came not from the justice system, but from natural causes. For the families of his victims, it provided little closure. The monster who had taken their loved ones had escaped the ultimate punishment. Yet for the city of Los Angeles, the legacy of the Night Stalker remains a powerful reminder of both the darkness that can exist in humanity and the strength of a community when faced with evil. What makes the Ramirez case so fascinating is not just the brutality of his crimes or the satanic elements he incorporated. It's the way an entire city mobilized to bring him to justice. From the detectives who worked tirelessly to identify him to the ordinary citizens who chased him down in the streets, it was a collective effort to restore safety to a terrorized community. Perhaps the most enduring image from the case is not of Ramirez himself, but of the crowd that captured him. It speaks to something fundamental about human nature. When pushed to the limit, when faced with a threat to our safety and the safety of those we love, communities can unite with remarkable strength and determination. The people of East Los Angeles didn't wait for heroes to save them. They became the heroes their city needed. Today, the case of the Night Stalker serves as both a warning and an inspiration. A warning of how vulnerable we can be in our own homes, and an inspiration of how resilient we can be when united against evil. The summer of fear eventually passed. The night once again became a time of rest rather than terror. But the memory of those dark days, and the collective action that ended them, remains embedded in the city's consciousness. For those who lived through it, the summer of 1985 in Los Angeles will always be remembered, not just for the fear that gripped the city, but for the moment when ordinary people stood together and declared that evil would not prevail in their streets. It was the day the hunted became the hunter, and the Night Stalker discovered that even he could not outrun the light of justice. In the end, Richard Ramirez's reign of terror became a testament not to the power of fear, but to the far greater power of community.